Folks, welcome back to this week's episode of The Cut. It is episode number 3. My man Fred Fowler from ESPN Radio 97.5 right here in Houston, Texas, and that's also affiliated with Yahoo Radio. Joins us in the studio. He's a regular on the show, and we appreciate Fred. Angelo Lawford from HMW now joining us in the studio. Angelo is our soccer correspondent, and we were just having a little debate about Vince Young, who is slated to join some soccer league that no one cares about. Also joining us on stage right now, actually be a good idea if Vince went to soccer probably, is Al Rage Walker. Now before we get going with Al, let me read off some of Al's credentials, folks. He's a 10-time world champion with Out of Control Wrestling. My first marriage was out of control, and I think Fred's first 4 were. He's a 2-time world wrestling champion with CWF out of Houston, 5-time world arm wrestling champion, and check out Al Rage Walker at Arlena.com. Arlena.com. Why does a wrestling guy who could punch anybody out have a website called Arlena?
That's my publicist. You in trouble now.
All right, she gonna get me, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, bro.
That's it.
All right, look, a lot of Texans talking, and we're going to end the show tonight. We're going to get right back to those Texans because I know that's the hot vibe around Houston right now. But we also got to kind of dip out for this segment and show a little love to the Houston Rockets. The Rockets on Friday of last week had their media day. Now, media day, for you fans that do not know what that may encompass, it's an opportunity for the media to come out. And this is kind of sort of a meet and greet session for the new roster of players for the season. Get team photos. We were even fortunate enough to see guys cutting commercials. We got some footage for you where James Harden was up on the set doing some dribbling skills for a commercial he was shooting for the team. Then there's also a press conference where you get an opportunity to question players and get their responses. And this season, obviously, with an incredible amount of hype because of the acquisition of Dwight Howard as a free agent. And so, obviously there are high expectations with this team after acquiring a guy like James Harden last season who, well, I'll borrow Daryl Morey's comment from from Friday. What Morey said was, we now have 2 top 10 NBA players. I got a chance to question James Harden about that statement from Daryl Morey, and what I asked Harden was, I pointed out that Morey had made that statement earlier because Harden wasn't in the room when he said it, so he had no idea of knowing it had been said. And I pointed out to James that you took on a significant amount of the offensive burden last season. Let's just be honest. He took on much more than a significant amount. He took on too much of the offensive burden, which clearly affected him toward the end of the season. I mean, we could see some visible fatigue in James' game, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which I don't think at any point in the season we could call him a plus defender. And when I hear Daryl Morey, Fred, say something like, we've got 2 top 10 talents in the NBA. Here's my thought on that. You've got 1 top 10 defensive player who, him and LeBron James are probably the best in the league. And then you have a top 10 scoring option in the league in James Harden. Now, both of these guys' strengths on either side of the ball still may be enough to legitimately qualify them as top 10 players. No argument that Dwight Howard is a top 10 player in the NBA. He's the best big man in the NBA, so for sure that. But when you start talking about being a top 10 player in the NBA and you're a wing player, that gets a little bit convoluted with that group of players that's up in there. Fred, your thoughts on that?
How do you know he didn't mean Jeremy Lin?
Silly ass me. Silly me, me.
The mascot.
Me, yeah,
that dude's a mascot. Look, I think James Harden's a top 10 player, and his defense wasn't great last year, but if you go back to his Oklahoma City days, he was a pretty damn good defensive player.
He was.
And I think having Dwight Howard behind him will make a big difference because you can afford to gamble a little bit more. I think you'll see him get more steals and things of that nature. And he's only 24 years old. He's going to get better. I think that's the thing. This was his 1 year, the first year that he's had to carry a team on his own, and I thought he did pretty damn well. And I think he's just going to get better from here.
I just think that And you make a great point with the OKC point, and I'm glad you made that point because I think it actually kind of feeds into my argument, and you guys can get in on this too. Is in OKC, he didn't have the burden of all those minutes,
Right.
and he didn't have the burden of being not only the casual scorer that early in the game just kind of keeps the pace going, but he was also burdened with being the clutch guy, the guy that had out to make all of the shots when you got to the clutch point, the late heroics. No matter how you ended the game, whether it was a closing out the game, having to make free throws, he had a lot of that on him mentally and physically. Whereas he didn't in OKC, and you're correct. He was a much better defender. And defending is about effort. And because the effort wasn't there, I think it had to do to the minutes he played and the type of minutes he played.
I think that's a fair point. But shouldn't Dwight Howard help you with that? And that's the
No
thing.
doubt about
He's
it.
going to take a lot of that burden off theoretically, and if it all works the way it's supposed to, and that should help his defense. But I really think that this guy is. When it was funny how Kevin Durant came out and said he should be in the top 10 and Dwayne Wade's not anymore, and it started this whole controversy all week.
Which I find ludicrous.
I agree with him. I don't think Dwayne Wade's a top 10 player anymore.
We'll argue that in just a moment. I promise you we'll argue that in just a moment. But why don't we, I posed that question to James Harden when he's at the podium. Richard Walker got that footage. And why don't we go to James' response to my questioning whether or not the amount of offensive minutes and the offensive burden that he took on last season, how it affected him last season, and with Dwight on the team now, how will it mature into a positive thing for the Rockets now? We'll go to that. James, Daryl spoke earlier that the Rockets are going to have 2 top team players. Last year you took on so much of the offensive burden. Talk about how that affected you on the defensive side, and now with Dwight on the team, how might you improve defensively?
That's one of the things I've been working on as well. It's my conditioning, being able to play 40 minutes on both ends. Like I said, last year I was kind of thrown into the fire, having a new role, starting, playing 38 plus minutes, having to do all the scoring and playmaking. That's how it was new to me. I was just going along and just going out there kind of playing. Now, with a year under my belt, I kind of know what to expect now. So defensively is something that I've been working on and something that I want to be great at. And this year, I talked to Coach Mikhail about me guarding the other team's best player on the wing. And that's something I'm looking forward to. Kind of motivate me and kind of take on the challenge just to stop them.
So as you can see, folks, Harden was clear and didn't even pause 1 second in acknowledging that the amount of minutes that he played last season, having to take on so much of the offensive burden, as we discussed, was a part of the reason that he kind of fatigued toward the end of the year, and just overall, then the effort wasn't there. Now back to this Dwayne Wade thing, and you guys got to get in on this. Defense still matters, and I think James Harden at his best defensively still isn't quite Dwayne Wade. And another reason why I say Dwayne Wade is still a better player for me, if I had to choose one in a 7-game series to win a championship, well, that's the thing about, not only has Dwayne Wade been the guy in winning a championship, his first championship, he's also shown to have what it takes, not only physically to be the second best player on the team, but what it takes mentally in regards to selflessness in thinking about the team first, because he totally had to change his game up in order to play with LeBron James. And I just think that he's proven on 2 different levels because of that, to me, in championship type of series. And let's just face it, let's be honest, he's our guy, James Harden now, but he hasn't played well in the playoffs. He hasn't been played to a superstar level in the playoffs yet.
If you want to talk about careers, obviously Dwayne Wade's is still better than James Harden, but you're talking about Dwayne Wade from 3 years ago. He's not that same player anymore.
You mean Dwayne who won the championship last season?
Oh, Dwayne won the championship? I think LeBron James had a little bit to
And
do
he
with
was the
that.
second best guy.
Give me a break.
Who was the second best guy on their team? Who was the second best guy?
Here's what I see. When I watch Miami play, it's not only the fact that they have the kind of talent, but the chemistry. The guys know when to step back, when to tell the other guy to come in and take over, do what he needs to do. Now, my concern when you look at the Rockets with the new player coming in, Are they gonna have that same chemistry, or is it gonna be, no, I'm the man, no, you the man, and you got this controversy going on in the
Good
locker
point.
room?
Yeah, good point. You know, interesting. Go ahead, Angelo.
No, I actually agree with Fred. I mean, if
Really?
you
Let's move on. No,
no, but if you look at what Dwayne Wade did in the playoffs this past playoff cycle, I mean,
injured, not even healthy.
yeah, but he was still
Well, that's not a part of it.
But look at the defensive plays that he made.
Yeah.
The weak side help Dwayne Wade gives. The rebound that Dwayne Wade gives.
Right, he's a good player, but here's the road. I think Harden has a potential to be a top 10 player.
Of course he does.
He has a potential,
He may be 11. I mean, I'm not saying he's trash.
and I think with this Howard acquisition, I think this is going to allow him to excel, and he's going to become that player. I don't know if that means somebody has to. I don't know if that means he's going to eclipse Dwayne Wade, but I do agree that Dwayne Wade is not the player, a top 10 player at this stage of his career.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I disagree with you. I thought we were friends. I'm gonna go back to Al's point about that chemistry requirement. And let's just face it, it's a requirement with NBA talent is the most condensed talent pool of uber athletic guys in any sport. I mean, it's just not as many guys can play that game at an elite level, and they have the egos to match. And that's why your point is so important. And that's why I asked Jeremy Lin on Media Day in no uncertain terms. I pointed out to Jeremy, I said, with Miami, we know that LeBron is the guy. It's his locker room. In OKC, we know that Kevin Durant is his locker room. I asked Jeremy Lin who did the Houston Rockets locker room belong to, and he had this to say. Jeremy, in Miami, the team belongs to LeBron James. In OKC, Kevin Durant. Who's the Rockets locker room?
I don't think it always has to be one guy. I think right now we're really listening to both of those voices.
What two voices?
James and Dwight. I mean, obviously, like Kale too. Coach McKell, I don't think we talk about this. No, I think both of them have done a great job of leading in their different ways. And I think Dwight has given a lot of advice, understanding what he went through last year in LA and the year before. Just being able to give advice from that perspective. I think James also coming from OKC, seeing what it's like to do it at a very high level and to have that program and that culture. I think they're leading in their different styles, and I think it's really helpful.
And do you and Harden communicate about collectively improving the defensive effort while backcourt?
I think that speaks for itself. Me, James, Chandler. I think something that we've all been thinking about is how we can all become a lot better defensively. And I know Dave's spoken about it publicly. I've spoken about it publicly, and we've all talked about it as a team too. And like you said, specifically the backcourt, really how we can shore up our defense.
Okay, that's fine and dandy that we got that response from Lynn, but Fred, I think you know me well enough to know what response I was hoping to get from Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, that you want your point guard to be the guy who says, "Hey, I'm taking it on me."
Right. I'm not trying to tie you in a knot to
My
say
job
that
to
this
get
is
the-
James' team or Dwight's team, but
It's my
you're the
job to
point guard.
get those guys the ball in the right positions, and basically it goes through me. That's what I want to hear.
See, I feel like Kobe Bryant mismanaged the situation with Dwight Howard. I thought with Kobe's rings already in the mantle, I thought that he mismanaged it by not allowing Dwight to, if nothing else, think he's the man. Because all you really want Kobe is a couple more rings. You know what I mean?
Honestly, it's Kobe's job to groom this guy to get to that next level.
But see, you can't groom Dwight Howard. You can't groom him. You have to let Dwight Howard think that he's the man. And I asked Harden, I asked James Harden, are you prepared, if necessary,
That's gonna be a problem.
to let Dwight Howard lead this team? And here's what James Harden had to say. From outside looking in, from Houston, watching LA, it appeared that Kobe may have mismanaged the relationship with Dwight. Are you prepared to let Dwight, if he needs to be in that role, lead this locker room?
Yeah, we're both leading. Same way, like I said, he has experience to where he can talk and be a leader once and off the court. Like I said, I'm young as well too, so I'm still learning from him. You know, he's going to teach me some things that I don't know, and I'll teach him some things that he doesn't know. That's the kind of partnership and friendship we're going to have in order to be successful. You know, so it's my job to make it work. You know, and it goes both ways. If I'm messing up and I'm not doing something right, you know, if I'm being lazy, then he should let me know. You know, and he will let me know, and it's vice versa. You know, so that's the kind of teammate and friendship we're gonna have, and that's the only way you can be successful if you be 100% with each other.
Now, here's what I thought was interesting about that. When I asked the question, and immediately Harden says, "Yes, I'm willing to let him lead the team." And then immediately, first sentence right after that, he goes, "But it'll be both of us." So that just puts into play. It doesn't say to me that there's going to be an issue, but it just tells me two things. Jeremy Lin should have said it was his team, and so everybody can have a good chuckle and move on. And also that what I said about the talent and skill set of these elite NBA athletes, they all have the ego to go with it and confidence to go with it. I see James Harden's ego as a confident, not an annoying type of ego, and I think you got to know your guys, you got to know your teammates. We all work together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Richard knows how to give me my space of what I need to be Craig, and Angelo, we know how Angelo what he needs to be the best. That's what a team does. Is you allow each other. You work 5 days a week on the air with a guy. You know what I mean? Who's in the MMA and to do MMA, you got to have a thick head, and you got to probably be a pretty stubborn dude that's gonna do what you do.
And you still gotta have that staff behind you to keep you prepared for those fights. So
No doubt
once
about it.
again, it's teamwork.
So how's that? You want the Rockets, folks? You got Rockets right here on the cut. But we got to get back to the Texans. We'll be right back.